Welcome, friends. Pull you up a chair, kick your shoes off, and set a spell. Let's talk about an old favorite, Dolly Parton's song, I Will Always Love You. A song written by a girl from East Tennessee with fire in her spirit and poetry in her fingertips. And a song that would go on to circle the globe, touch millions, and become one of the most enduring love songs ever penned. However, it's actually written as a goodbye song, and not a song just declaring love for someone. Back in 1973, Dolly Parton was standing at a crossroads. She had been working with her mentor and longtime partner, Porter Wagoner, traveling the country, singing on his show, and co-writing songs together. But Dolly's wings were itching, and she knew she had to fly on her own. That decision wasn't easy, not by a long shot. So, she put pen to paper and wrote what she later described as a farewell and a blessing. A song that said, I love you, I always will, but I have to go now. That song was I Will Always Love You. Recorded on June the 12th, 1973, in Nashville's RCA Studio B, Dolly's original was short, country pure, and soaked in sincerity. She registered the words and music with the U.S. Copyright Office that same year. A savvy move she'd happily thank herself for later. When released in March of 1974, it climbed the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart and hit number 1. A glorious moment for a song that spoke of goodbye and love all wrapped up in the same breath. And here's a neat little twist. Dolly didn't just score one number 1 hit with this tune, she scored 2. Nearly 10 years later, in 1982, she re-recorded I Will Always Love You for the soundtrack of the film The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, in which she also starred. That version, too, hit the top spot on the country chart, making Dolly the first artist to take the same song to number 1 twice with 2 different recordings. If you listen close to the lyrics, that plain-spoken line about hoping life treats a loved one kind, and that above all, you wish love. That's Dolly's heart shining through. It wasn't about romantic love in the traditional sense. It was her way of honoring what came before, her way of saying thank you to Porter Wagoner and to that chapter of her life. In the midst of the turmoil of Dolly leaving Porter's show, the two were very heated emotionally. Animosity filled the air surrounding the show because Dolly had informed Porter of her intentions of leaving the show. So, after she had written the song, and before it was released to the public, she sat Porter down and sang him the song she had written in which she was telling him goodbye. After she had finished, he looked at her through teary eyes and told her she could go. But he didn't make it easy on her for leaving. In fact, he sued her. But that's another story for another time. You can hear more about that situation in my 3-part podcast on Dolly's life and career, available now on my YouTube channel. Now here's a story fit for Southern lore. Word got around that the king himself, Elvis Presley, wanted to record Dolly's song. Dolly was thrilled at the thought. According to Dolly, in an interview later, the recording date had been set and everyone was ready. But then, Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager, dropped a condition on the night before the recording was to happen. They wanted half of the publishing rights in exchange for letting Elvis record it. Dolly, ever proud of her songs and what they meant to her future, politely but heartbreakingly said no. She later admitted she cried all night about it. She really wanted to hear Elvis sing her song. But she told W Magazine that the publishing was the most important copyright in my whole publishing company at that time, and she simply could not let it go. Dolly has joked in interviews that turning down Elvis was one of the best business decisions she had ever made, and, with a smile, said that when Whitney Houston's version blew up worldwide, she made enough money to buy Graceland. It's worth mentioning here that Priscilla later told Dolly that Elvis was a big fan of the song and actually sang the song to Priscilla as they were leaving the courthouse after their divorce was finalized. Fast forward to 1992, and here's where the story takes a turn that nobody could have fully predicted. Whitney Houston was cast in The Bodyguard, and they were looking for a love song that could anchor that soundtrack. I Will Always Love You, already beloved by country fans, was chosen as a last-minute replacement for another track. Whitney's version was produced by David Foster and transformed into a sweeping pop soul ballad. Released on November the 2nd, 1992, it didn't just do well, it dominated. Her rendition topped the Billboard Hot 100 for a record-breaking 14 weeks, longer than any song in years, and sold more than 24 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling singles of all time and the best-selling single by a female artist ever. Critics called it her signature performance. Rolling Stone praised her powerhouse delivery, and USA Today hailed it as iconic. Whitney herself won Record of the Year and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance at the 1994 Grammy Awards for the song. When Dolly first heard Whitney's version on the radio, she was driving down the road. She later told in an interview that she had to pull over because she was so moved and so filled with adrenaline. She was afraid she'd wreck trying to listen. That's the sort of respect and joy she felt. Not jealousy, not resentment, just pure admiration for what Whitney did with her song. Over the years, I Will Always Love You found its way into the hearts and voices of many artists. It was covered by Linda Ronstadt in 1975, LeAnn Rimes, Kenny Rogers, and countless others. Dolly herself recorded a duet version with Vince Gill in 1995. It charted respectfully and even hit number 15 on the Billboard charts. They also performed it together at the Country Music Association Awards that year, a real treat for fans. And in more recent years, Broadway star Christian Chenoweth recorded the song in 2019, even releasing a duet recording with Dolly, a beautiful blend of stages and styles. So, what makes I Will Always Love You endure? Maybe it's the universal truth at its heart, that love isn't always about possession, but about gratitude and release. Maybe it's the poetry in Dolly's simple lines. Maybe it's the way Whitney raised its voice to the stars. Maybe it's the way, no matter how many times you hear it, it still brings a tear and/or a smile. As the sun sets and the lightning bugs start to dance, think for a moment how a song written from a goodbye became a song of everlasting affection, crossing genres, generations, and souls. That, my friends, is the magic of music and the legacy of I Will Always Love You. If you would, leave me a like and hit that subscribe button. And, as always, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, friends, be blessed.